Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick. This is Swivel Thinking. We're covering Git and source control in this playlist. We've covered most of the core stuff. There's a couple things that are crucially important that we have not covered yet. One of those being PRs, pull requests. So when you're working on a team or with other engineers, most of the time you're going to branch off your main branch, you're going to perform some changes, and then you're going to want to merge it back into the main branch. Now, if it's your own project, you know what all those changes are, and you'll go ahead and just merge it. But if you're working in a project with other engineers, they might want to review your changes before merging it back in. Especially if you're working with a big team, maybe there's some junior engineers, right? We want to review each other's code to make sure, obviously, that they didn't make any mistakes, but also that they're following the style of the project and the feature does what it says it's supposed to do and all of that type of stuff. So when we want somebody to review our code, we'll open a PR, a pull request. This is basically a request to merge that code. So in this video, we're going to open a bunch of PRs. We're going to talk about how to do it through Xcode, how to do it through Gitkraken, and then how to do it directly on GitHub. This video will introduce you guys to PRs, and in the next video, we're going to take it to the next level and talk about how to create some really professional looking PRs.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're in our Git and source control project here, and we have learned so much this course. Just to recap a lot of what we did here: cloning, committing, staging, stashing, pushing, pulling, merging, rebasing, cherry picking. Lots of keywords, lots of cool stuff. One thing that we have not done is a pull request, and that's what we're going to do in this video, pull requests. I couldn't do pull requests until we actually understood pushing, pulling, and especially merging, but also rebasing and cherry picking. So now that we understand how to merge and all the different ways that we can merge our code and commits, we can now open a PR. So a pull request is often just referred to as a PR. And a pull request is basically a request to merge your branch into another branch. So when we do a normal pull, we're taking the version on the remote repo and we're going to pull it down to our local version, right? We're going to pull those changes. Now we're going to request to pull changes from one branch to another branch. It should really be called a merge request. We're going to take whatever changes and then request to merge them into another branch. The reason I think it's not called a merge request is because there are options, as we're going to see, of how we want to merge. You can do something called squash and merge, or you can merge, and there's some other options as well. So it's called a pull request, but it's basically I want to request these changes into this other branch. So the output ends up being the same as a merge. The output is we have two branches that merge into one. But a pull request is basically a formal request for this to happen. And you might be thinking, well, it's kind of stupid, right? Like, I just merged all of my code. Why would I need to be requesting anything from anybody? Well, if you're the only developer and you're in your own project, then you don't need to create a PR. But if you're on a team, you're working with other engineers, you need to get your code reviewed before they just put it into the production app. So what happens is you create your code, you create a pull request, a request to merge your code. Then somebody else on your team is going to look at that request. They're going to look at your changes and they're going to either comment on it or they're going to approve your changes. And when it's approved, we can then merge it in. Same thing as merging, except you're basically asking somebody else to look at your code first and review it. So in this video, we're going to look at PRs, and we're going to do it both in Xcode as well as on GitHub, because I think a lot of PRs really go through Git. So what are we going to do here? Let's branch off of the main branch. We already made some changes. Okay, let's commit those changes. Let's just make it quick, clean. Let's say update docs, stage and commit, push. All right, so let's branch off the main branch like we've been doing. I'm gonna go to my main branch. I'm gonna branch off it. Let's say ns, let's say add settings view. That would be the name of our branch. Let's create. Let's make sure we're checked out on that branch, add settings view. I don't know why this is here. Add settings view is our current branch, right? Make sure let's refresh file status. Add settings view is where we are. Let's go and make some changes. So let's go into the home view. Let's change this to say, hello, Nick. And maybe we're going to add a new file, SwiftUI view. Let's call this settings view. create it, and let's just say settings, and let's commit that as well. So we're committing to our add settings view branch, feature, add settings view, stage it, commit it, and we want to push it up. So let's make sure we push it to the remote repo. All right, so nothing new. We have our other branch, and now we want to merge this branch into main. And let's pretend for a second like this is a production app. If I just merge my code, nobody else is going to see it. It's going to merge immediately. That's how I want to work in my own projects. But a lot of teams might say, hey, you can't just merge without anybody looking. We know you write good code, but somebody's got to review it, right? So let's create a PR so that some other person could review our code. We're going to do it first through Xcode. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on so this is our current branch and this is our main branch. And I'm going to create a pull request. And I'm going to request to merge this branch into this other branch. So if I had other branches, they would be listed here. So most of the time you're merging into some sort of development branch or a feature branch, but I'm going to merge this into the main branch. So I want to merge into main branch. It says describe this pull request. Let's just say adding settings view per some ticket XYZ123. This is what we're doing. This is what we're requesting to do. We're going to talk about this in the next video, but maybe in here, I want to add some logic to explain to whoever's going to review this, what's actually happening in the code. So I can add in here sentences about the changes. A lot of teams are going to have templates for how to structure this. And we're going to talk about that a lot in the next video. The next video is all about creating these templates. If you're not sure what to put here and you don't have any ideas, here is a quick template. I would say write one sentence about what it is you are changing. Write one sentence about anything that is confusing. So if I'm going to review your code and I'm going to get confused about something, rather than me going into your code and then asking you, hey, what does this do? You can write a sentence about it here. Hey, I did this because of X, Y, and Z, and it looks a little weird. I would also say add one sentence about anything you are unsure of. So if you're a junior developer, sometimes you're working and you are trying to come up with the best solution, but you don't know if it's the right solution. And you really want a senior developer to take a second look at it. So if you are creating a PR that has hundreds of changes, here's a chance where we can say, hey, senior developer, double check this code in this sentence because I wasn't 100% sure if that's the right approach. So again, these are between you and your teammates. Your teammates are going to read this, and this is where you can just write out. You can give them some hints and explain the changes in this pull request. Let's go ahead and let's publish it. And it looks like we actually forgot to title it. Sorry, cancel. Let's title the pull request. I'm going to delete this. I'm actually going to make this the title up here, and I'm going to delete that from the description. Cool. All right, let's publish that. Publish pull request, adding this. Yeah, publish it. Sick. Great job, guys. You are now experts. If I go back to our project here, I can actually see in GitHub, there is a pull request. I can click on it and I can see the actual pull request. This person, Swivel Thinking, wants to merge one commit. So if I had a bunch of commits, it could say 20 commits into the main branch from this other branch. So from GitHub, I now get this screen where I can review the code. So from GitHub, I can now review the code. I'm going to first do it through Xcode, and then we're going to come back and do it through GitHub. But I just wanted to show you guys that when we create that PR, it's pushing that PR to the remote repo. So now this pull request is for other people to see. It's not just for me. I already know the code is good. I want somebody else to review the code and approve it. So if you're working on a team here, you'll have other reviewers where you can request right here for other people to review your code, or you could assign this PR to somebody. So if somebody on your team has to review it, you can assign it to them and then they'll get an email about it. But for right now, let's come back into Xcode and let's look at this PR. So again, if I was here and I click on this little source control button drop down here, I can actually see the pull requests. So there's a pull request on this branch. Here are my branches. Here are my pull requests. I can open up this pull request. So this will be a description about what this pull request is doing. And so I can actually see all of the changes on the left here. So I can come in here and I can see what are the changes. Well, we can see the settings view is green, meaning it has an A because it was added. It's a new file. There were no changes. This is a new file that's been added in this request. And then I go to the home view and I can see the changes. So I can see them side by side here. So this was deleted and this was added. This was the change. Sometimes when you're doing PRs, it's actually easier to change this view. I'm going to click this dot, dot, dot here. And instead of the inline comparison, I'll do a side-by-side comparison. So now I have the new version and the old version here. So I can compare them side by side. You'll notice this is not a conflict, right? It's not that we have to pick one or the other. It's just showing us this is the old version, this is the new version. This is what has changed. I'm going to switch it back to the inline comparison here. Come back into my pull request. So once I've reviewed it all, I can then go ahead and merge it. Let's merge it for now. I'm going to click merge. It asks me a merge strategy. So I can merge commit, I can rebase, or I can squash. I've actually never rebased through a PR, so I'm not exactly sure why someone would do that. I guess this is how you could rebase if you didn't have a GUI. But what we're here to talk about is a merge commit versus a squash commit. So merge commit is your default. A merge commit is what we've been doing. It's your regular merge. I'm going to take these commits, merge them into the main branch. Let's go ahead and do that. We can put a commit message here. Let's just say merge settings view into main. Let's delete the source branch after we merge and go ahead and merge it. So after I merge, the branch should now go away. Merge. And we can see that it's successfully merged. And I should be able to see, let's go to GitKraken, that I merged that branch in. Let's pull it down from GitHub. Click the pull button. This branch has been deleted, so I actually can't pull it. Let's go to the main branch, pull the main branch from GitHub, and I can see that it actually did merge in. So I'm going to delete these stashes. So many stashes. All right, so I can see that it now took this commit, merged it in, just like we would have expected. I'll delete this other branch as well. So we made a PR, and then we merged it. Awesome. We still have a lot to go, though, in terms of PRs. Now we're going to do squash and merge. So we're on our main branch. Let's create another branch. Right click, a new branch from main. Let's call this ns/add push notifications. Click create. Obviously, we're not going to actually do it, but maybe we're going to do a bunch of commits here. And let's do some crappy commits. So I'm going to say subscribe, and I'm going to write some crappy commit message. Let's stage it. Let's commit it. I'm going to do another one. Swiftful thinking. Let's do another commit. Stage and commit. Do one more. And let's just change this and another commit and say fixed. Cool. Stage and commit. And let's push this up to GitHub. Where are we? Push to GitHub. While we're at it, let's also create a pull request. So last time we came in here and we clicked create a pull request. We can also go on GitKraken and we can say right click and start a pull request. And this is basically the same stuff that we just did in Xcode. Or we can actually go up to GitHub. So because this branch is on GitHub, we can go into our repo here. And you'll notice that that pull request that we just did, the last one, is actually closed. So once you merge it, it automatically closes. So you can see all the past merges as well. And only the open ones are the ones that are unmerged. And one thing that's awesome about GitHub is that when you push to GitHub, it can see your recent branches. So oftentimes, like I push, and this is exactly what I want to do. I want to compare and create a pull request for this branch. So I can just click this button here. And it literally is going to create that pull request automatically. I'm going to click back and pretend like I didn't do that. If this was not here, the way to do it is I go to the pull requests and I say, create a new pull request. And I want to merge add push notifications into main. When I do this, it'll show me that we're requesting to merge these 3 commits into the main branch. It changes actually only affects one file and one contributor, meaning only I made those changes. So you can imagine if you had a team, you have several contributors. Create a pull request, and let's create the pull request. But right now I have this pull request, and this is a pretty crappy pull request, right? There's no description provided. I don't even know what I'm adding here. Chances are if somebody did this pull request and they asked me to review it, I would say, add some description. Tell me what is actually happening in here. So they come in here and they can edit the pull request. Let's say adding push notifications because of XYZ. Update comment. Cool. All right. So what I want to get at here is now I can merge or I can squash and merge, just like we just had the same dropdown, rebase, squash, or just regular merge. A regular merge commit takes all of our commits, so this commit and this commit and this commit, and merges them into our branch. So we can see the commit that we merged. But a squash and merge means take all of these commits, squash them down into one commit, and then just add that one commit onto our branch. So that's what we're going to do now. So instead of having these 3 commit messages, we're going to squash them into one parent commit. There's a bunch of reasons to do this. One of the reasons would be if you were just messing around for your own personal branch and you made a bunch of bad commit messages, I can squash and merge to make one clean commit message. Another reason to squash and merge is if you're working in a really big project. You could imagine that I built some feature over here, and then maybe they were good commits, but it took me 50 commits to build this feature, right? If I were to merge all 50 of those in, all of the engineers on that team now are going to see all 50 lines in the commit history. So you can imagine this is like 20 lines here, right? Imagine it was 50. You've now taken up the entire Git history for everybody. And oftentimes, if all of those commits are related to one feature, it really doesn't matter that we have every single commit that you had. All that really matters is one commit that says, what is this feature that we are adding? So this again is something that varies greatly depending on the project. If I am building my own app and I'm the only engineer, I almost always merge and keep all of my commits. Because to me, I will understand what every single little commit does because I remember that because I did it. But if I'm working with other engineers, I almost always squash and merge because other engineers don't care about all your small commits. So what we're going to do here, instead of merge, we're going to squash and merge. Squash and merge, and let's delete this. You can keep reference to all those commits if you want, or you could just add your own custom description here. So I'm going to say added push per XYZ. And then down here will be co-authored. So because we're making our own commit, right? So previously we have 3 commits. If these were by different people, each commit has its own author that you can see in the commit history here. But when we merge these into one commit, it's only going to look like the author, whoever actually merged them, did all of that code. So when you do the squash and merge, you have this co-authored here so that there's a history of all the other people who also made those commits, even though those commits are no longer around. So let's confirm squash and merge. And let's delete our branch because we no longer need it. Well, actually, I'll just show you on GitHub first. So we should have squashed and merged. So let's go to the main branch and let's pull down those changes. We can see the changes here. So my local version is here and my remote one is here. I pull and fast forward to, all right, let's delete the stash. I don't know why there's a stash. I can see my current branch and then the remote version is ahead of my main branch locally. And I can see here the commit. And you'll notice again that there's only 1 dot here versus 3 dots here because we have taken these 3 commits, squashed them down into one commit, and then merge that one commit. So now when I delete this, I will delete this branch forever. I am never going to be able to see these 3 commits again. They are basically wiped out from the commit history. But all 3 of those changes are under this one commit because we've squashed them into the one merge commit. So that's what squash and merging is. Let's write some comments here real quick. Where are we? In the content view. So we looked at PRs. We looked at a regular PR merge is merge all commits, and a PR squash and merge is squash all commits into one and then merge one commit. So now you guys know the difference between merging and squashing and merging. I would say, generally speaking, If it's a small project, just you, maybe one other engineer, merge. If it's a large team, always probably squash and merge. And it really dives down to, do you want this commit history or not from all of those commits? Sometimes it's nice to have all of them. Sometimes you just want one. Two final things we're going to do before we wrap up here. Let's commit those changes. Just do a clean, update docs. Before we wrap up, we're going to do one more quick example of creating a PR and then merging it. Just to run through, I feel like going through the motions is half of the battle of learning this stuff. So again, let's switch back to our main branch. Let's come back to our repo here. Let's go to the main branch. Let's branch off of this. Let's create a new branch from main. Let's call this one ns/update settings, maybe. Let's click create. Go to our settings view and let's make a tweak. Let's say settings view, maybe give this an @state private var do something of type bool equals false. Let's commit that. Let's add a feature. Let's say add do something state. Stage it and commit it to that branch. Let's also push that branch up to GitHub. And then while we're at it, let's come in here and let's open up a PR. Create a pull request. And we want to merge update settings into main. Let's title this update settings title. And then we'll add a description that says changed something, and let's publish it to GitHub. Cool. So the last thing we're going to check on here is on GitHub itself. So let's open back up our Swivel source control. We have a new pull request. So most of the time I would say developers are managing pull requests on GitHub. Obviously you can do it in Xcode, you can do it in Kraken, but GitHub is the easiest way to learn at least pull requests. So I'll come in here and I'll look at the pull request. You can see who opened it. You can see what they want to do. And you come in here and you can see the files change. And so if this was in Xcode, again, we're going to be in the PR. We're going to open up the settings view and we can see the changes. All right. And let's just say maybe for this line, I don't like that it's called do something. So I can right click here and I can say add pull request discussion to the current line. Let's click that. And let's say, maybe I'm the senior engineer and I say, hey, this works, but we don't use this naming convention. Can you rename this to is premium? And then I can comment that. And so now I've reviewed this PR and I've added a comment. And now it's a little discussion. It's literally like a little mini thread. I can even see it on GitHub as well. If I refresh this, I can see the comment. And so we can see the comment exactly the line that it's on. I'm going to delete that. And another way that we can do this in GitHub, here I can just click on the plus and add the same thing. Can you rename this? I have the option to either add a comment or start a review. Let's add a comment for now. And so this is what it looks like. So whoever made this PR is now going to get an email or a notification that says, hey, somebody commented on this line of code in your PR. And so now you guys can have a discussion. So if I go back to the conversation tab here, I can see this new timeline starts to grow. So I can see the discussion here. So again, let's do another one. Maybe there's a change here that I don't like. Can you fix this one? Or maybe even, why did you do this? And I can add another comment. And so now we can have these conversations going about different pieces of the code. Can I rename this? Sure, I'll change it now. And I will comment. And now that this discussion's done, I will also resolve that conversation. This conversation though, why did I do this? Well, someone else probably asked me this and I now have to provide an explanation. And then comment it. Right, so this is where we can start to get code reviews going and you can go back and forth with other engineers about the code. Why did you do this? What does this mean? How does this work? All these discussions happen in PRs. Let's actually resolve this conversation now because maybe we're done talking about it. We'll go back into files change. And this time I'm going to add a comment. Let's say, can you change this? And I will start a review. So starting a review is very similar, except this time when we start a review, somebody else has to actually look at it. So when we start a review, it actually becomes pending. So the difference is a comment is much more like Let's just have a casual conversation. I don't know if this is actually right or wrong, but when I create a review, it's much more, all right, here's the things that we're going to have to fix before we can merge this, or here's the things that we at least have to discuss before we can merge it in. So this is pending, meaning this is still outstanding. We have to resolve this before we go ahead and merge it. Now I'm going to finish my review here and I can give a final comment. So if this was a longer file or a bunch of files, right, I might have a bunch of comments. So not just one. And then at the end of that, I'll create a little summary here. Like, this was a great start, but please fix X, Y, and Z. We'll write a comment here. Perfect. And I could approve it. But you'll notice here that I can't click the approve button. And that's because pull request authors actually can't approve their own request. So if I make a PR, I can't approve my own PR, which obviously makes sense in hindsight. But generally, you'll come in here and you will add all your comments and then decide, do I want to submit this PR review as a comment, meaning not explicitly approved or denied? Approve it, meaning good to go. If I approve it, I should assume that this person will merge it as soon as I approve it. So is this ready to get merged into the branch? Or request changes. So if I don't like this, I can mark this as request changes, meaning we need to change these things before I will approve this. Again, you can't request changes to yourself. But if this looks perfect and there's nothing outstanding, so let's delete this. I'll come in here, I'll review changes, I'll LGTM, looks good to me, click approve, and then submit the review. So I can see my final review here. Someone else will give it a thumbs up. We're ready to go. We're good to ship. And then we will go ahead and either merge or squash and merge. So let's just go ahead and merge it. But so this is the general flow of, I'm going to create a PR and then somebody else is going to come in. They're going to review my code. They're going to mark it up. We're going to discuss and go back and forth on those changes. And then eventually they're going to approve it. Once it's approved, I now have approval to merge into the main branch. So I'm going to merge and merge it in. Confirm the merge. Done. I now have successfully created a PR and went back and forth, and then we merge it in. I'll delete it as soon as I merge it because I don't need that branch anymore. Let's go back to our source control here. We can see that merge now happened. Let's reset our local to that branch. Pull those changes down. Make sure there's no other changes. I'll delete these stupid stashes. And we're going to fix these missing files soon, I promise you guys. But yeah, so now we're back on main. We can delete this branch here. You'll notice that when I deleted it after the PR, it deleted on the remote branch, but the local version is still here. So let's delete the local version as well. Awesome. All right, now you guys know about how to use PRs. And in the next video, we're going to take this a little bit further and look at how we actually might want to do these PRs with an actual team. Because generally speaking, PRs are required for other people to review your code and then get approval to merge them in. Thank you guys for watching. As always, my name is Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking, and I'll see you in the next video.